Now you might be intrigued to understand just how much brighter it is outdoors than indoors, and in this video we're going to explain that, and we're also going to explain why morning sunlight is really important to setting the wake part of your circadian rhythm so that you can sleep better at night some 16 hours later. All that's to come in this video, as well as how to use the app Light Meter to understand just how much light is in your outdoor environment. Welcome to the Earthy 30 vlog. Earthy 30 is the nutritional challenge that helps you eat 30 different plant-based foods each week. And this week we're talking about the beneficial effects of morning sunlight on getting a good night's sleep. Now, if you've heard of Andrew Huberman, you will have no doubt heard him talk about the benefits of morning sunlight. But don't worry, if you know all about it, there is going to be an extra bit in this vlog, which is actually showing you how to use a light meter to read the intensity of the light indoors versus outdoors. And we're going to be answering the question, how much brighter is it inside the window versus outside the window? Andrew Huberman is just one of the people who talks about morning sunlight. He's really interested in the ocular system, the eyes. There are other people who endorse this idea of getting morning sunlight too. One of them is sleep expert Matt Walker. And also there's a really good study that I was reading by a guy called Ken Wright, published in 2013. And he really interestingly looked at a bunch of people who were living indoors with electrical light, and then he took them camping for a week, where they were exposed to the natural rise and fall of the sun, and what he saw was that their circadian rhythm, their body clock, actually moved forwards in line with the light exposure. So all of these people, these researchers, are endorsers of the idea of morning sunlight. So morning sunlight, why is it so important? Well, every cell in the body has a 24-hour clock, and essentially we have a wakeful part of the day and a restful part of the day, which is daytime and nighttime. And what morning sunlight helps do is kick off a bunch of hormonal reactions that tells the body that it's daytime and helps us get ready for action, but it also sets a clock 16 hours later that helps us let us know that it's actually time for bed as well. You may have also heard of this idea of morning lark and night owls. I'm a bit of a night owl myself. This means that I actually kind of peak a bit later in the day. So for me, getting this morning sunlight is really important, because it helps make sure that I'm awake earlier in the day, and when it's time for bedtime that I'm not still kind of like wide awake. It actually helps kind of like set my circadian rhythm forward. So we're going to turn to the great man Huberman now and see what he has to say about light and the circadian rhythm.
You do want cortisol to reach its peak early in the day, right about the time you wake up. One way that you can ensure that that cortisol peak occurs early in the day, right about the time that you wake up, is to view bright light, ideally from sunlight, within the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking.
So what Andrew Huberman is talking about is getting this morning sunlight to kick off your circadian rhythm. He also talks about cortisol. Now, cortisol is a hormone, and it's often talked about in the context of stress, like, oh, I'm getting too much cortisol, I'm really stressed, like I can't focus, I can't sleep. But actually every day in the morning, humans have a natural spike in cortisol, and that is to kick off all the functions that help us get more out of our day, really. And this morning sunlight is a compounding effect that helps maximize the effect of this cortisol so that we are awake earlier, and then also so that when it's time for bed, it's easier for us to fall asleep. Now, Huberman, he loves to talk about how the eye is actually an extension of the brain, and I was really interested to learn that beyond seeing, the eye does a bunch of other stuff. It's really programmed to look out for faces that we recognize. It also does a really good job of computing the relative velocity of things as well. So if there's a lamp post coming towards us because we're walking, but then a car coming towards us even faster, we kind of do the math and work out if it's a threat for us enough and if we need to take evasive action. And it helps us understand light, and what it's looking for is both intensity of light but also the contrast of the color in the light as well. So when the sun is overhead, the light is broadly blue, but in the morning, you've got a mixture of orange and blue light, and in the evening, you've also got a mixture of that kind of orange and red colored light as well. So your brain is looking for this change, and if it sees the change in the morning, it's like, aha, it's morning, let's get ready for action. And if it observes this change in the evening, it understands that it's time for bed. And a really cool thing that Huberman talks about is the fact that if we do get the evening sunlight as well, it actually makes our brain less receptive to light thereafter. So if you're watching a bit of TV or something, if you've caught the sun set, you're actually a bit more immune to the colour of TV. Huberman calls it the Netflix inoculation. So why do you need to go outside to get this morning sunlight? Well, according to Huberman and others, such as Ken Wright in that paper that I mentioned, you have to be outside to get that intensity of light. And this is where light meter comes in. So a bit later in this video, I'm going to show you walking through my apartment with the light meter app, reading light under the lights, and then take it outside, other side of the window. So you really have to get outside to get that intensity of light. So let's hear a bit more from Andrew Huberman on that.
Even on a cloud-covered day, you are going to get far more light energy, photons, through cloud cover than you are going to get from an indoor light source, an artificial light source.
So what he's saying there is that you get far more light, more photons, even on a cloudy day, than you would ever get indoors. And it kind of made me chuckle when I heard this, because around the same time I'd heard on someone else's podcast, the interviewer, the podcaster, she asked people about their morning routine. And this one particular guy was saying how he's like terrible in the morning, and he waits for his partner to bring him coffee, and in the meantime he just goes on his phone and he's like, yeah, it's a really cool hack, like that blue light from my phone, it just kicks off my body clock. And I'm like, you need to be watching some Andrew Huberman, because I'm pretty sure he would be saying that the light from your phone is nowhere near bright enough to kick off your circadian rhythm like going outdoors. And that's what we're going to have a look at a bit later in this video. So one of the things I love about Andrew Huberman is he really backs up his science and his findings in quite a geeky way, actually. So he talks about this app called Light Meter. Let's hear him talk about how you can use that to understand how much light you're getting.
If you really want to get technical and you really want to measure how much light is in your environment, you can download a free app, something like Light Meter, and that will allow your phone to act as a bit of a light meter. It gives you a pretty accurate measurement of how many lux, which is a measure of brightness, are in your environment. Here's what I suggest you do. Wake up in the morning, take Light Meter, point it at the brightest light in your home, and take a measurement. And what you'll probably find is it's about 1,000 lux. Now go outside, and if there's some sunlight out and there's cloud cover, point it at the sky, and what you'll find is like 5,000, 10,000, sometimes even 90,000 lux.
So when I heard this, I'm like, challenge accepted. I'm going to go and get the Light Meter app, and we're going to go outside and we're going to start measuring some lux. Now you might ask, what is a lux? Well, quite humorously, it's if you took a candle and you put the candle 1 meter away from a wall, and then kind of had a meter square bit of space on the wall, a lux is the amount of light that's cast in that 1 meter square from that candle. So Light Meter measures lux, and what you do is you download it on your phone, and before you get going, you basically have to put a little bit of paper across it, and you can see that in my bedroom it's about 350 lux. And then as I progress through the lounge, you can see that I've got all these lights turned on. It's still 350 lux though, so it's just not that bright. Now I'm going to walk over to my workstation. So I've set up my computer right near the window, and you can see the lux climbing to 1,300. So that's behind the glass. Now if I walk to the open window, you can see that lux climbing to 3,000, 4,000. And then if I hold the phone outside the window, you can see it going 5,000 plus, higher and higher and higher, up to 6,000. Now, Light Meter's also got this button you can press called peak, where it kind of just like peaks at the top, and you can see that as I've held it all the way out the window, we kind of get to almost 9,000 lux. So that is the experiment that I've done with Light Meter, and it was a bit of fun, but it really brought home exactly what Andrew Huberman was saying. So let's answer our questions. The question was, how much brighter is it in the middle of the room versus by the window? Well, it's actually 4 times brighter if you're sitting by the window versus in my room. But if you're the other side of the glass, it's at least twice as bright, but actually as many times as 6 times brighter if you're just 1 meter away from the building. And in actual fact, the way that my building is organized is there's another building that's blocking the sun. So you can imagine if I was in an open space, that lux reading would be way, way higher. Probably today, which is fairly sunny, like over 10,000 lux, probably nearer 20 or 30,000 lux if we were getting that sun from all around. So when is the best time of day to get your morning sunlight? Well, there's 2 things to consider. So the first thing is this cortisol spike. So that happens in the morning, normally between about 8 and 9. So you really want to get the sunlight around that time. But there's another reason why you want to get sunlight then too, because you need this contrast between the kind of yellowy orangey light that you get in the morning versus just that blue light of midday. So your eye is actively looking for that change. So that's why you have to get the morning sunlight, and you have to get outside, because it's only outside that you really get that intensity. Because even glass, whether you're sitting in an office, kind of like me, or if you're driving somewhere in a car and the light's coming through the windscreen, that just doesn't cut it. You need that light going directly into your eyes if you're going to get this real kind of like strong signal to your body that it's daytime, let's go, and then in 16 hours later, it's time for bed. Just a bit more on Light Meter. So I live in the Olympic Village in London, and I took it out and about the other day, and I've got a selection of images to show you. So this day was a bit overcast, and you can see that the lux reading here was 7,300 lux on an overcast day, so not quite as bright as today in this video. Huberman says that on these days you need probably 30 minutes outside to get enough daylight to really kick off your circadian clock in the way we've described. This is a photo of the velodrome. It's a little bit overcast, but you can see the light kind of coming through the clouds, and that's 11,000 lux. A brighter day, still a bit cloudy, you can see that it's 20,000 lux. A sunny day, this was 60,000 lux. This is just in a nature reserve near the Olympic Park. And then, interestingly, Huberman says that if you go skiing or something, then that's when you're going to really get your huge lux readings. And I was actually just skiing last week, and I took a reading, and I got my all-time highest reading of 159,000 lux. I guess there's no clouds in the sky, you're a bit closer to the sun because you're high altitude, but that was a real intense amount of lux that day. I hope you found this video useful and informative. Please head over to earthy30.com, take a look at the challenge. Month 1, eat 30 different plant-based foods each week. Month 2, add in sunlight and exercise. Month 3, there's a bit more. You'll have to go over there if you'd like to learn about that. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've put some links to the resources down below of the different Huberman Lab episodes. I've linked the Light Meter app that I've used, and I've also mentioned that camping study that is in there at the bottom. That is it from this episode.